Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So, Tarek in our long-running series, the Unported Playlist, where I take some of my favorite unported arcade games of all time. And if you can't tell already today, your logo was just on screen after all. We are playing F-Zero AX. This is the actual Triforce version of the game, not the ROM-hacked F-Zero GX that gives you some of the AX features as well as graphics. This is the full-fat arcade experience, and it is unported because the GameCube version did change up a lot. And I know I'm going to see some comments down in the comments below, but I'm here to tell you that the best Nintendo racing game ever made was made by Sega, because Sega made F-Zero AX and GX. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, got a Patreon link down below as well. But the biggest difference between AX and GX is the handling system is completely different. A lot of the drifts, a lot of the sharp turns, you're going to be performing them differently in AX versus GX. Now, a caveat off the top, I am not the best F-Zero player in the world, so as far as all of the boost mechanics off the start, they are timed differently than GX, but I do not have all of the details to perfectly explain every single intricacy to you. You definitely want to read some of the wikis, and I will leave one in the link below, because honestly, the amount of detail and how this game changes every single control mechanic was probably like 10 pages long and not articulatable in a video. But what I can absolutely articulate is just how insanely fun, fast, and charming F-Zero AX truly is. This game always feels like it's moving at 1,000 miles per hour, because honestly it kind of is if you read the speedometer. All of the twists, the turns, the perspective tricks on your eye, the fact that you can race around a cylinder in 360 degrees and still not fall off makes it feel completely different than almost anything out there outside of a Wipeout game. And every single F-Zero game has always been fun, but for my money, AX and GX are the best that the series has ever been, and the best racing game ever to feature a Nintendo logo, and that's why it is so funny that they basically contracted Sega to make this, which makes perfect sense, because if you want to go to the best arcade racer developer out there, you 100% know you're calling Sega first and foremost. Not a knock against Namco, Sega just does it better than everybody else. And I will say it does take a few minutes to get used to F-Zero AX, especially if you're coming from GX, but stick with it and you'll understand the game and how to control it very quickly, because you can't go in expecting this to play like an arcade racing game. It just doesn't play like that, because it isn't a car, it is a hover shift, so your entire understanding of how it controls and how you want to move the wheel and pedals is going to be completely different. And that is the fun thing. You can set this up on a wheel and pedal set. You can set it up on something like an analog controller. You can even set it up on something like a flight stick, so long as it has analog controls within, because you do have this standard left-right analog inputs, and you also have those heavy turn inputs as well, which you can assign to buttons on a flight stick. It would be a really fun way to play the game, but you can also do it on a wheel and use some of the paddle shifters as well, because it's going to take a second to get this actually configured as to how you want to use it in something like your PC if you're going to emulate this with Dolphin Triforce, but stick with it, it is worth it. And just so you are aware, it does emulate in a specific fork of Dolphin called the Triforce fork. It hasn't been updated for like 3 or 4 years at this point in time, but F-Zero AX works perfectly. And if you want a setup tutorial on how to get the Triforce games running on Dolphin, leave me a comment down below and maybe I'll show you guys how to do it. I was thinking about that when I was making this video. And honestly, this game has absolutely everything going for it, and one of the best parts is the visual presentation. It is absolutely outstanding. These lightning bursts in the background, the colors, all of this range is basically warping towards you because you're moving so fast. Sega and their artists and developers just made a game that absolutely is also one of the prettiest games ever to run on GameCube hardware. And just so you know, the Triforce arcade board is basically a combination of some Nintendo hardware and some Sega hardware. Nintendo brought the GameCube, Sega brought their actual GD-ROM system, so they'd have more storage space versus the actual GameCube disc, and it's just one of those things. It's basically a duct taped together combo of Nintendo and Sega hardware in all the best ways. But it's soundtrack sample time, 45 seconds, and I'll be right back with more. The intensity of soundtrack absolutely needs to be that loud and that fast because it drives the intensity of the visuals and the racing, because that is the thing about F-Zero AX. It just absolutely blows by with a sensation of speed that no other F-Zero game has ever been able to accomplish. Sure, F-Zero on Nintendo 64 ran at 60 frames per second and it had a great sensation of speed, but this is literally just leaps and bounds beyond what something like the Nintendo 64 could kind of give you the sensation of speed. And like any F-Zero game, after the first lap, you're going to get that turbo, and you need to manage it because you only have so much energy in your vehicle, and every time you turbo up, it's going to take a chunk of it, and every time you hit a wall or another opponent, you're going to lose some of that as well, so you don't want to end up exploding your vehicle before the end of the race. And I love this initial overlap here. If this just isn't Daytona USA in something like F-Zero AX, I don't know what it is, because it has all of those Daytona vibes. Just keep turning left and try to beat everyone in the field of 30. And that is why it's so much fun to see a game like F-Zero developed by Sega, because they have all the chops to make it a credible arcade experience. And just recently at the Midwest Gaming Classic Expo, I played an original cabinet for this. They are still out there, and it was a ton of fun. Now, if you do emulate this, of course, nothing is going to 100% replicate the overall control scheme of something like an arcade cabinet, but you can get incredibly close. And that's all that really matters, because we want to keep all these games alive and make sure everyone can play them, and finding an F-Zero AX cabinet out in the wild is not going to be the easiest thing. They're not extinct, but they definitely are rarer than they used to be. And we switch to coming down the line. Hopefully soon we'll get an announcement of another F-Zero game, because it's been a very long time since we got a mainline entry. Sure, we got F-Zero 99, but that felt more like a really fun compilation of the ideas of F-Zero and not 100% like a new game. And honestly, Nintendo, if you just want to let Sega make the next F-Zero again, that would probably be the best choice out there. You make a great Mario Kart game, but when it comes to proper arcade racing, just let Sega take the reins and you're going to end up with a better game than you could make. And trust me, that is not a knock against Nintendo. They make some of the best games in the industry, but nobody can hold a candle to Sega when it comes to this genre. And I love every single course in the game, all the sweeping turns, all the pivots, going upside down and inverted, making some jumps and flying back down into the course. But honestly, it really is a game where you have to jockey for position basically the entire time. You don't want to fall too far back, you don't want to be too far in the lead. Honestly, being in like 3rd or 4th place in the final lap and using that turbo boost meter to your advantage can be the difference between getting a checkered flag, 2nd or 3rd place finish, or a 7th and 8th, and I love that management of your resources in the game. And again, with those sharp turns and being able to actually bank into them, you're going to find a vehicle that 100% clicks with you, or this vehicle right here, the Dolphin, definitely kind of turns a little bit sharper than I'm used to, so I do end up hitting the wall more than once. And I love that depth in an arcade racing game. Every single vehicle has a completely different handling and acceleration characteristic, and because it is Sega, all of the physics here just work. If you hit the wall, it's because you made a mistake or picked the wrong vehicle, not because the game was fighting you. But one more soundtrack sample, because again, this music is a 10 out of 10. 35 seconds, and I'll be right back with a bit more.
Time extension.
Honestly, just incredible music, and if I had to give it a genre name, I'd call it Space Race Techno, because that's just the vibe it's giving out. And I love this course right here, this undulating blue pattern that almost looks like water, and the fact that you can race in full 360 degrees inside of this cage here. You have to come out at the right angle, or else you're going to end up upside down and losing speed. So you're going to have to learn each and every one of these courses, all of its turns and intricacies, if you're ever going to want to see a first place finish. But that's the fun thing about F-Zero AX. You think it's going to be a 20-30 minute game because there's not that many courses, but then you realize as you bear down, finding vehicles, changing around some of the characteristics, and learning every single turn in the course to try to be able to beat every single course, you're going to spend hours upon hours with this game, and you're going to have a ton of fun. And don't get me wrong, F-Zero GX is every bit as good as this game and probably more fully featured, but it's always fun when you have two different versions, the arcade as well as the home console version, and they do have so many fundamental differences between them, because trust me, F-Zero GX and F-Zero AX might look like the same game, but they are not. Sure, they've got the same courses, but they feel completely differently, and in my opinion, F-Zero AX has the handling characteristics and overall feel and vibe that I prefer over F-Zero GX. Leave me a comment down below and tell me what you think. But we're done, and I'll see you guys next time. Hope you enjoyed the video. Bye-bye.
vehicle.